Hello. Hello. Shannon, do I look ravishing?
You always do.
I'm dressed up just for this occasion.
Good.
It was a matter of just like getting up at 5 p.m., taking a shower, putting some clothes on. I'd like to let you know this is the first time I've been out of the house this week. And I was motivated to come to this session. Because you know when the rain is falling like this, and you hear this pattern on your window, and you get warm and toasty in your bed, you don't want to get up. I was not motivated, I want you to know. But then I knew I would see some nice friends, shining faces, some good wine, and some good stories. So I'd like to welcome you to our Indy Story Slam, produced by Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana. Hey to all of those people out there in Facebook land. Is that how we're broadcasting this? Do I know?
It's working, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to welcome you here tonight. I'd like to tell you that we have a new sponsor for our slam. And I'm so excited by this because I can't let this man in my house. Our sponsor is Maestro Organizing, and we have the owner, Greg Gilpin, who will start us tonight with a story. But I keep thinking, why do they keep putting these people in my path? Do they know about my garage? Do they know about my office? Okay? Do they know I can't walk around the bed in my bedroom? Oh, no!
I'm your guy.
You have to be really close to me for me to let you in my house right now, okay?
Okay.
In my living room is a box from Target, a box from Amazon, and there's stuff in those boxes. The table is full of Christmas gifts that I brought into my house. I almost didn't make it here because I had to take Christmas presents out of the front seat of my car. I had to move groceries out of the back seat of my car so that I could put my walker in. I had no room to put anything in the trunk, so I had to put my walker in the back seat. But I set the bottles of tequila right there on the garage floor, you know, and I came on down. But I want you to know tonight our theme is motivation. Now, you need to know there are some rules. I don't know if you're lying or not unless your nose starts to grow. But it should be a true story, told in the first person, and it should be no longer than 5 minutes. Now, I want you to know our timer is looking out for you. She wants to make sure you don't go over. So at 1 minute, she's going to blink her cell phone. And Miss Ophelia, if you raise your hand right there in the orange, you'll see that blink. You'll know your time is almost up. Now, we don't mind if you keep telling the story, but you will have points deducted by our judges. And we'd like to thank our judges and our timekeeper and our scorekeepers for being here tonight on this rainy day. Now, I need to also remind you our media sponsors, WFYI. We appreciate that. And I don't know if you need this motivation or not, but our stories, the first, second, and third place winners will receive cash prizes. Now, I know the cash has been a great motivator in the past, and I hope it will be a motivator tonight. So I want you to know that I'm just going to slide to the left, to the left, to the left, so that I can introduce Greg Gilpin as he starts us off tonight with our story about motivation. Hey, Greg.
Well, this is perfect because they wanted me to share how I began my business, and motivation is totally the theme of this. My name is Greg Gilpin. I'm actually a composer and conductor. I've done this for over 30 years. I work with high school choirs, middle school, elementary. I write. I'm very well published. I work as an editor. In 2020, on March 6th, I left Carnegie Hall. I just conducted a concert, got on the plane, and knew there was a virus coming. Got home, and on that Thursday is when all the drugstores in New York were basically ransacked, getting everything. And I missed it by that much being in New York, and nobody in my 300 voice choir got COVID. I don't think I did, but who knows? But you know what happened? Everything in my world shut down because I was in music, and everything shut down with like the publishers called no more travel, Nothing. No more publishing. Nobody's singing. What? Kids aren't in school. Nothing. And I went, well, this won't last. June. No, June. We'll be back in June. August. It'll be good in August. Finally, September, I'm trying to figure out how and try to stay motivated. How am I going to be relevant in my life and in my career? And I was doing lots of things online. And I'm on a webinar because I had nothing else to do that day as I sat trying to be motivated in my office. And there was a webinar about professional organizing. And it was led by Dorothy Brenninger, who is the main organizer on the television show Hoarders. I don't know if you are aware of that show. If not, watch it. It'll make you clean your toilet. And she did a webinar about professional organizing. Long story short, we hit it off. I became a professional organizer. I took her classes. She certified me. I've now been on the Hoarders television show as an organizer, so you can watch that, look for the bald guy. And I began my business as Maestro Organizing. And I thought that was a pretty cool name. And from 2 years now, I have been in every part of the house. Nothing scares me. And actually, I feel like we just did our free consultation because now I know everything's going on. We can, you know, you did the hardest part. Let's go, let's take care of it. So if you are in need of an organizer, I do just about anything. And a lot of it's just getting rid of stuff. But it's hard, memorabilia, all of that. But my music career is now coming back because the pandemic easing up. And I'll be at Carnegie Hall in February. And that is all starting to come back. And I'm doing both now. And basically that whole time I had to find motivation to keep going. Because there were days I cried, going, I'm never going to have a music career again because it got worse and worse and worse, as you know. But the music industry, the arts, really have not recovered yet. So motivation was key, and I'm very motivated to be a part of this and to sponsor this. I love storytelling arts. It's new to me. I've been to one earlier, and then my husband, Ganesh Sharma, is on the board. And he's the one that just happened to mention, hey, you know, my husband does organizing, has a business. So I'm thrilled to be a part and very motivated to continue and help. Thank you.
Oh, Greg, it's kismet, I know. I know. We'll talk. Listen, I know the food is good. I'm going to get some of those sweet potato waffles fries before I leave. But there's surveys. I don't know if they're out. Are they out already? But before you leave, you will fill those surveys out because we need to do a little bit more about you. But the real reason you want to fill out those surveys is because you may win tickets to a storytelling arts event. And you do want to do that. Had a great time listening to Peter Cook. Well, actually watching and listening to Peter Cook. And he was just wonderful. And the kids and the participation. So just keep your eye out for our upcoming events. But we're here to tell stories. Now I'm going to reach over into this pretty blue basket. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to pull out any blank ones. Now you know what happens. You think you don't have a story. But let me tell you what actually happens. When somebody tells you a story, it automatically reminds you of something that happened to you. And you think, I never thought about telling that as a story. Well, think about it. So I will be asking you continuously if there's anyone who still wants to come up and tell a story. Now, I love these people who pull these things. So, one of my favorite people coming up to tell. Remember the stories about what? Motivated. They didn't seem to be too motivated about it. But Jen Clee, you are up first.
So my parents have been hanging this Christmas ornament on their tree and I love it. It's a photo ornament. It's a wreath surrounding the photo, and on the wreath it says 50 years together. My parents haven't been married 50 years, and the photo inside the wreath, we've never met the couple. It's a stock photo. But my mom is many wonderful things, two of which are she is a sucker for a sale, and she is an eternal optimist. Growing up, we had a similar ornament on our tree. It said 25 years together. And again, the stock photo in the center. And my mom bought it at an after Christmas sale, and every year she'd hang it on the tree, and she said it was a little motivation for my dad. She'd say, now you just have to stick around a couple more years if you want your photo in this ornament. Incidentally, my dad is the most faithful person I know. As soon as my parents celebrated their 25th anniversary, my mom's first gift to my dad that Christmas was the 50-year ornament. And she actually moved the stock photo, it was this blonde couple, moved that into the 50-year ornament because, in my mom's words, by then they felt like family. So I should not have been surprised that before Danny and I were even engaged, and at least a month before Christmas, my mom gifted us with our first Christmas together ornament. She probably bought it on sale before Danny and I even met. However, I don't know if she was motivated. I think her optimism, or it might have been she felt that we needed a little motivation, but she gave us this ornament. And I have inherited many qualities from my mom, but her optimism is not one of them. I always assume that the worst is going to happen. And while Danny and I were dating, I always thought it was too good to be true, that he was going to break up with me. In fact, I found out that he had broken up with a previous girlfriend the day before Valentine's Day, which horrified me. And so after finding that out for every holiday, Easter, St. Patrick's Day, Groundhog's Day, I would make him a top 10 list of festive reasons not to break up with me. And in a sense, it was kind of my own 25 years together ornament, except I was motivated by fear. And it was supposed to be funny, but I think a little part of me thought, you know, if Danny reads this, he'll be reminded how witty I am, and he won't break up with me. And what Danny would do was he would take this list, and then for the actual holiday, I would get the list back with his rebuttal. For every reason I gave to stay with me, he would give me a reason not to. You were a really charming, normal couple, as you can see. So when my mom gave us this awkward ornament, I took it a step further, was a little more awkward, and on the back wrote down my Christmas top 10 list. Things like, don't be a Scrooge, or you'll be sorry. And gave it to Danny, and he laughed, and I didn't think about the ornament again until a couple weeks later, mid-December, I was sitting on his couch, and I noticed that the ornament was hanging from his tree. So I jumped up to look at it because I knew his rebuttal would be there. And I turned it over, and instead of any counter arguments, all he'd written was, good points, let's just get married. And he'd tape the ring to the back. And if I could have seen into the future, I would have known that while I never would buy Danny a 25 years together ornament on sale or otherwise, I also would never write him another top 10 list. And I would also know that for 10 years now, we have been hanging that ornament on our tree, laughing at the list, and trying to explain the story to our understandably confused children. I couldn't see into the future, obviously, but even so, in a moment of rare optimism, not motivated by fear, I said yes. And of course, the first person I called was my mom.
Did you hear the collective audience go, oh, that was so romantic. I love it. Well, motivation. You know, every year I'm motivated to say I'm going to be a better person than I was last year. You know, once we had a topic that was superstitions, and it was around New Year's superstitions. And people who know me know for a fact that I will not let a woman walk through the front door of my house first thing in the new year. And I used to have friends who would walk through the front door for the new year for my luck. And as people died out and moved away, then I had nobody to walk through my front door. And I have two brothers. They could have walked through my front door, but they will not buy into my superstition. But they were also not the ones who went to watch services on New Year's Eve. And my dad and I would leave church early and go to different friends' houses. And I'd stand on the porch and he'd walk through the door. Then I could come in, he'd have a drink, and then he'd go to the next family's house. Well, so I'm really rigid about this superstition. So this year it took me to January 7th before I had a man walk through my front door. Now, I don't know what that means, but I am motivated to cultivate more male friendships in this new year. That's my motivation. But let's pick another name out of this fantastic blue basket. I'm not going to pick one that's folded up this time. Ooh, a good one, a good one. Tom Corbett is the next teller on our list.
Hi, everybody. So this is, I'll probably be pushing the 5 minutes, but this is almost, I'd call it twofer. So I've got a friend that has multiple sclerosis. And back when she was diagnosed, her motivation was her 2- and 4-year-old daughters to rehab, to get better, to find the proper medicine that would help her along her path. But there was a time when she had trouble walking with her left foot. She couldn't pick up her left foot. And so during those days, at some point in time, this was before I knew her, she saw a movie called The Way. Has anybody ever heard of that movie? So that became another one of her motivators. I'm going to go to Spain and I'm going to walk the Camino de Santiago. So fast forward about 4 years later, we met at a multiple sclerosis event because I've got a family member that has MS as well, and became friends. And I didn't know about that, but this event was, they called it Challenge Walk, and it was 3 days, 50 miles total, and that was the first time that she was walking without a cane, without assistance. And my job was to be on bicycle and keep track of the walkers. And so day one, that was a 21-mile day, I rode up on her near the end of the day, and she was struggling a bit, so I got off my bike and I walked with her. And that's how we struck up our friendship. So moved forward a few more years, and I learned about her dream, her goal to go walk the Camino. And we had traveled a little bit together through the years with multiple sclerosis events, so I suggested that I go along. And not that she was going to have any trouble, but I wanted to make sure that she did. And I thought, well, you know, and hopefully I don't hold her back, because by then, we're talking about a motivated woman. She was doing great. So as time got closer to go walk the Camino, and we walked the way, the Francis Way, so that started in St. John, France, and went to Santiago in Spain. So time got closer. We were at an event where they were talking about how about 1 million people in the United States have multiple sclerosis. And somewhere she heard that the 500 miles that we would be walking, 800 kilometers, that was about 1 million steps. So then our goal became to walk a step for every person in the United States that had MS. So here we are, walking the Camino. And because of her MS, we didn't want to stay in albergues, hostels. We wanted to have a bed and breakfast or a hotel or an albergue that we could rent a room. We wanted to make sure she had a good night's sleep every night so she was rested for the next day, because we didn't want to stress her condition. So these places would tell us if they're not right along the Camino, then to call them and they'll come pick us up. So day one, made that call. We don't know where you are. We're at the church where we're to meet you. And so they sent a car to pick us up. And they were outside of town, bed and breakfast. And that's where they took us. And the next morning, they took us back to the Camino on the other side of town to start the Camino. And the second we both got out of the car, it's like, no, we're walking every step. So we walked back across town, found out where we started, well, we stopped the day before and called them, and then we walked. And then the goal became after that to make sure that we were walking to the places so that we wouldn't have to do that again, although we did have to do that one more time. But I can tell you, with that motivation to walk a step for every person in the United States that had MS, we ended up surpassing that. So it was a total of 562 Camino miles officially, but we got it done. Thank you.
Wow. I don't know if I would have walked back. But you know, I have friends my age and they're hiking in the woods, you know, doing marathons. I'm going, yay! I will be there. I'll meet you in my scooter, you know. I want you to know that this is a free event. So we like when you spend money on food and drink. But if you want to make a donation to Storytelling Arts and to Freetown Village, then you can send us donations via text. Text 44321 with SAI in the body of the text. And we will make sure that each group gets some of your money. You might want to double it. We will split the donations between both groups. Anyway, I think it's time for another tell. Uh-oh. This one's folded. Hey, Sheila Spencer, come on down. Hey,
Hi,
Sheila.
my name is Sheila.
Come on.
My friend Kelly decided that she was going to go skydiving for her birthday, and I said, I'm going with you. She said, are you sure you want to think about it? I said, absolutely not, because if I think about it, I won't go with you. So what people often ask me is, what would motivate you to voluntarily get into a plane, go over 15,000 feet in the air, and voluntarily jump out of the plane? So I tell them that as I think about it, my skydiving experience is what I fall back on when I need the motivation to do something, especially when I'm doing something for the first time. So let me take you back. I am on this small, tiny plane, and my instructor is strapped to me. And we are going 10,000, 15,000 up in the air. And my instructor says to me, Sheila, I need you to be still for a few seconds. Let me paint a picture. Half of me is seated in the confines and the comfort zone of the plane. And the other half of me, from this part down, is just out there, literally in the wild blue yonder, out there in the sky, just out there. And he says, be still for a few seconds, but it felt like forever. And my body was screaming, Sheila Patrice Spencer. Yes, I said my whole name, so it's serious. Your body was not meant to be confined between the comfort and the known of the plane and the unknown, uncomfort zone, beyond the comfort zone of the sky. Whether or not you fall back into the comfort of the plane or whether or not you fall out into the sky, either way, make a decision. And it was at that point that my instructor said, Sheila, are you ready? And I absolutely was not ready. I was completely terrified out of my mind. And I answered, let's do this. And we leaped. So at first he says, Sheila, you need to let go of the strap so that you can let your hands enjoy the experience. And the moment I did that, it was amazing. I know how eagles feel when they soar through the air, and the perspective and the view changed my life. And when I landed, I was like, oh my God, that was waiting for me on the other side of my leap. If I hadn't have taken that chance, I wouldn't have experienced that. So whenever I need motivation to do something, especially if it's something for the first time, I go back to the 3 lessons that my skydiving experience taught me. 1, skydiving, it took courage, but it doesn't mean you don't do it afraid. When he asked if I was ready, I was completely terrified. And I learned that courage doesn't mean being without fear. Courage means you do something in spite of the fear. So when I want to do something new and I'm a little nervous, a little afraid, that motivates me to remind me that courage doesn't mean being without fear. It means doing it afraid. 2, skydiving taught me to release expectations. I am a planner, I am a list maker, and expectation of plans are my middle name. But sometimes I've learned that not having expectations, when you don't know what's in store, when you don't know what it's going to be like, not having expectations is actually liberating. And you're free. You don't have to confine yourself in expectations, you're free. Release you from expectations. 3, skydiving, I discovered new possibilities. The greatest thing was what was waiting for me on the other side of that leap. So that motivates me when I'm trying to wonder about doing something new. There are people waiting on the other side of that leap. There are people that I will meet. There are experiences that I will have that will motivate me to do this thing I've never done before. So every time I'm making a decision about something that I've never done before, that I'm doing it for the first time, I go over these 3 lessons again. Takes courage, do it afraid, okay, let go of expectations. Something's waiting for you on the other side of that leap. So this morning, I decided to go over those 3 lessons again. I emailed the Indy Storytelling Slam, and I pressed send. For the motivation.
That was just great. I always thought that whenever they gave me my final diagnosis and I only had 3 months left to live, that's when I would go skydiving. That'd be my only motivation. Now, I know you're wondering about our next slam. You always do. I can see it on your faces. Our next slam will be February 15th at 7 p.m. at Half Liter, 5301 Winthrop Avenue. And the theme is conversation. Oh, I know there are going to be a lot of tales. Now, if you need a slip to sign up, we got lots of, Shannon's right there. I mean, Shannon. I know her. Samantha's right there. Starts with S. I was close. Samantha's right there, and she's passing them out. So if you think of a tale, you want to sign up. We got plenty of time. But right now, I'm going to reach into this beautiful blue basket, my favorite color, and pull out another name. Oh, we're in for a treat because Chat Black is a name I have pulled. Chat, come on down.
I don't know if I can claim we're in for a treat. This is going to be a lot more down to earth and less of a grand theme than you've heard so far. My side of the street has 4 houses on my block, 2 where the owners live there, mine and the far end, and the middle 2 have out-of-town landlords. And when I bought mine, there was a tree I wanted to replace, and that meant calling the before you dig line. And people with spray paint came and made lots of colored marks on my lawn, and the green mark said private. Being a new first-time homeowner, I called the city and said, say, what does it mean when the green mark says private? And they said, all that means is back in '29 when your house went up, we didn't have any sewer hookups out that way, so your builder put something in, And stuff works in your house, right? So it's going somewhere. We just don't know where. And that sounded to me like the kind of thing I would like to know before there was a problem. So I hired a guy with this cool radio tracking sewer snake, and he found this pipe that starts at my house and is shared by the two in the middle before it joins up with the city by the far end of the block. And I drew that on an aerial photo I downloaded and mailed copies to the owners of the two middle houses. Hi, I'm your neighbor on the block, not sure if you know about this yet, but here's this shared pipe behind our houses. Maybe keep it in your records, and if you sell the place, pass it along. Years went by. The place next door did change hands. I mailed a fresh copy to the buyer. Hey, in case your seller didn't pass this on to you, here's hoping we never have to know this. Last spring was when we had to know. I won't go into how I found out, but as soon as I was sure the problem was past my house, I got in touch with the next door landlord. Hey, any drain problems over there? He said, I had heard something from a tenant a while back. I paid for a guy with a drain snake to go out there. I thought that was the end of it. And then we found out the house past him had a new owner also, so we had to find that contact information. I got in my car and drove half an hour out of town to bring him a copy of the map that his seller had also not passed on to him. First, he heard of a private shared sewer back there, and the highlight of that conversation was his tenant taking a look in the basement and solving the riddle of where stuff from 3 houses was going. And he needed no further motivation to be on board with having that problem dug up and fixed and splitting the cost 3 ways. And so we got a quote, and kind of the last minute I remembered another guy I'd worked with before got a quote that was a lot nicer. On the big day, the other 2 owners even deigned to come into town, and by the end of the day, the 3 of us are standing around this filled-in hole that's behind the 3rd house, right where his tenants park. And we're thinking about putting some kind of barrier there so nobody accidentally drives over it. And he says, yeah, because you know, the people who actually live down here, they don't care about anything. And I was motivated to say something, but this was one of those moments where you have a filter and nothing you are thinking of to say in that moment will go through it. Thank you.
Oh, chap, I can sympathize with you. I bought a house that was on a septic. Didn't know nothing about septic. Was skeptical about septic. Back in those days, they did not have to disclose that you had a Barrett assessment. But a couple of months later, not only did I have to fork out $10,000 for the Barrett assessment, then I had to pay somebody to disconnect the septic, hook up to the city sewer, run the line out to the street, and I saved money by raking the big mound of dirt to a level that I could walk on in my lawn. So I know about motivation. I don't care how much you tell me about a septic system, I'm not buying it, okay? Now, I know that chap's story probably nudged the memory, and there is still time to sign up to tell a story. We still have blank slips and we still have pens, so you can tell a story. We got time. I have nowhere to go, it's still raining. But right now, Sam Powers is going to come up and tell a story. Samantha.
All right, so they say money can't buy happiness. And you know what makes me happy? My friends. For those of you that have heard me talk before, my husband and I met in college. And once we graduated, we moved to Indianapolis, since that's where he's from. And once we built up the courage and the bank account to move out of his parents' house, we did, to rent a small, modest bungalow in Broderville. And the first few months were nice. We had people come visit us, our college friends, our high school friends who had moved away. But soon we started to notice that we were kind of entering our adulthood phase where a lot of people had moved away. And we didn't have very many friends in the area. So one day I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw this couples competition, and it was kind of like the Newlywed Game. And it was a weekly competition. They were going to broadcast it online, and it was through the Indy Star. It seemed legit because my then boyfriend's first question was, is this a scam? And I said, no, it's not a scam. And can I apply? He said, yes. And he said, well, why are we doing this? And I said, to make friends. I said, okay, fine. So we show up the first day at Kilroy's. That was where the first one was. It was at Kilroy's. And they had these bright lights and all these cameras. And we sit down and we're like, you know what? We're here to make friends. Win or lose, we're here to make friends. And so we answer the first couple questions. And we're looking at each other like from across the table like, yeah, we're pretty good at this. I mean, I know you a little bit, you know? And so on and so forth. The first competition, under our belt with a win. We sit down with the couple we competed against, had a beverage, what do? You know, how did you two meet? So on and so forth. No exchanging of numbers, but we figure, hey, social media, right? Maybe we'll find them later on Facebook. The weeks go on, and we go to each of these competitions week after week after week. We're showing up to Kilroy's, we're ready to go, we're getting to know each other better. Well, then we start to get a little bit more motivated for other reasons than just making friends. I got to the point where I was Googling how to get to know your significant other quizzes just for our free time. It was a little bit competitive and it was a little bit obsessive, but again, we were motivated. So finally, you know, we get to the finals and we get down to the last question, right? We're ahead by one. And the question was, who is your significant other's celebrity doppelganger? And I'm looking at my now husband across the way. I'm staring at him. He doesn't look like anyone. And I finally said, you know what? He has a beard. At the time, Andrew Luck was playing on the Colts. He had a beard. And so I write down Andrew Luck. And you'll never guess, when my husband flipped up that dry erase board, what it said. Andrew Luck. All right, so everyone's cheering and clapping, and at the time, a couple of Colts players came up and said, you know, you ready for your prize? And we said, yes, and it was $5,000. $5,000. But you know, like I said, money doesn't buy happiness. We didn't make any friends that day. The couple we beat, they were out of there before anyone could even say congratulations to us. But you know what money can buy? An engagement ring. And thanks to that, we got my engagement ring.
I love it. You know, I was motivated to buy a Mega Millions ticket. So I was upset when somebody in Lebanon, Maine, got the winning ticket. Now I don't buy these tickets when it's only $20 million or $500 million. Because like my mother used to say, that's not much money. At any rate, I'm waiting for the next jackpot because I've been playing the Hoosier Lottery since it has been in existence. And I cannot believe that I have not won yet. So I am motivated when the pot is big to go out and buy another ticket. And I do believe that eventually I will win. I got faith. At any rate, I know that motivated you to think about another story. So I'm gonna pull another name out of this basket. Uh-oh, it's folded up. Let's see who it is. David Randall. Come on down.
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That was Kennedy's motivational speech that led me to join the Peace Corps, where I met perhaps the most motivated person I've ever known. His name was James Grant, and he was a black farm boy from South Carolina. What was he? And he had joined the Peace Corps and was under my supervision in Brazil. And over the years, I got to know James well. And it came time for him to terminate his service. He had a problem. He, remember, this is 1968. It was not a good year politically in the United States. And James was scheduled to go home in September. And as his supervisor, he came to me one day and he said, I need to go home no later than the 10th of August because I've been accepted to graduate school in agriculture at the University of Illinois. Peace Corps had a rule at the time that if you left service prior to a determination, your original termination date, you were charged the fare, your airplane fare home, which was about $800 at the time. So Jim came to me and he said, I need to go home by August, but if I leave, then they're going to charge me $800 and I won't be able to repay my student loan, make a payment on my student loan, or enroll in graduate school. So being a kind of a novice bureaucrat, I thought, well, there must be a solution. And he said, I've got 30 days of vacation coming. If I skip those 30 days and work straight through, I will have fulfilled my commitment to the Peace Corps and I'll be able to get home in time. And I said, young and bureaucrat, young, kind of naive, and I thought, well, why not? So I sent it up the chain of command and it ended up with the director of Peace Corps in South America in Washington, D.C. And his decision was, no, we can't do that because it will just create problems in the future. So unfortunately, James can't get his way paid home. So I gave him the bad news. He went back to his town where he worked as an agricultural extension agent and told his counterpart and the town mayor that it wasn't going to work. He wasn't going to be able to go home. So one day, his counterpart and the mayor of the town stomped into my office and they were mad. They said, how can Peace Corps, such an organization pays their workers nothing, how can they deny this man an opportunity to go home and continue his life? And I said, rules are rules. I can't do anything. And they said, oh, they were mad. They said, well, we'll pay his way home. And I said, well, put it in writing. And they did. And I sent it up the chain of command to Peace Corps in Washington, D.C. And the director of Peace Corps looked at that and he said, ooh, this does not look good for us. If the host country is paying the penalty that we're imposing on volunteers. So, to make a long story short, Jim was able to go home on time, and he had one of the most successful careers I know of in the realm of education. And in the final analysis, 2 of his sons also joined the Peace Corps. In the end, I wondered. He and I joined the Peace Corps probably with basically the same values and the same motivation. But some way, in my mind, his service was much more commendable.
That was wonderful. I used to read about the Peace Corps, and I never thought about joining. But I know a lot of people who have and were really good servants. I don't know what day I'm going to do something exciting, but it's not going to be today because I've got business. I've got to pull another name out of this basket so we can get another storyteller. Now, if you have not heard, we have got a timekeeper, and our timekeeper is doing you a favor by waving her phone with a light on it so that you know when it's a minute. And I've been impressed with the editing that people have done standing here on the fly. Good job. But right now, Bontes Day, come on down.
Good evening. Wow. So a story about motivation. This is going to be interesting, I hope. The first time I heard about storytelling arts, Story Slam, was through a friend of mine who speaks to storytelling arts also in our Hear Our Story. And he told me about it. He said, man, you need to come down. I believe it was at a different location one night. And he said, you need to come down and check it out. So I was sitting on my couch, or laying on my couch, and I was just looking at my feet, and I was like, do I really want to put shoes on and get up and dry out? Of course, I said no. So then a few weeks go by, and I was invited to another story slam. This time I was invited by yours truly. And when she invited me, I said, well, you know what, I have to go. I have to just show up. If I don't do anything else, I'm just gonna walk in the building, say hi, and when nobody's looking, leave. Right? That was my plan, right? So anyway, I showed up. I came and I heard numerous people step up to the mic and share a short story on the theme Memories and Mementos, I believe it was. So I was like, wow, maybe I could do that. But then I had that age-old arch enemy of mine, fear. It's just got to growling in my stomach, and I was like, nah, I bought up the little paper that I had with my name on it, and I kind of tucked it away. And so I was trying to leave out of the location to get away from Ellen. And she stopped me, and we started talking about some things, and she looked at me, and she said, you know, the next story Stelling Slam is on motivation. You're speaking. That's how I made it today.
I had to laugh because, you know, Ellen has this little quiet voice, you know, and, you know, she's just the nicest person. But if she asks you to do something, everybody always says yes. Nobody tells Ellen no. The people who tell her no, the people who don't know her, you know. Anyway, that was great. Well, now there's still time because we got blank slips here, and we got time for. I got until 9:54 before my meter runs out. Ooh, we have a famous person in this room who's going to tell a story next. Andrew Brown, come on down. I know the street wasn't named after you.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
You're not old enough.
All right, this will require a little bit of audience participation, so play along with me if you will. When I say motivate, point out to you, just say motivate back. So let's try it out a little bit. Motivate. 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 See, that technique is called a time filler. So when you don't know what to say, I'm trying to think of what to say. I can just point to you guys, and you can need to have more of an experience here. I was thinking a lot about the theme of motivation that's coming down to this event. Motivation can be a bit fluctuous, if you will, a bit moving constantly. I don't think anyone has one specific core motivation and that's it. There's always different motivations. My motivation from when I was 5 to when I was 25 will be different. My motivation when I'm 50 will much be different. When I was 7 years old, I think my motivation was a good mac and cheese and some hot dogs mixed in it. That's what got me in the kitchen to make some stuff from the beginning. When I was 16, my motivation was to get my first girlfriend, and 9 months later, we don't talk about that story. We just put that behind us. One of my most recent positions in life was an admissions counselor. I worked as an admissions counselor for a university on the south side, University of Indianapolis. I'm very proud of them. But my main job was to recruit high school students, get them to come to college. And do we have any parents in the room today? If you could raise your hand if you're a parent. Keep your hand up if you're a parent with someone over the age of 17. I don't know if this is a common experience, but motivating 17-year-olds to do anything is nearly impossible. I don't know if anyone's figured it out, but let someone know you may be in the line for a Nobel Prize. But motivation can be very tricky. I spend a lot of my time in that admissions counselor role talking to students, saying, hi, we have these wonderful things at the University of Indianapolis. Would you want to come down and do a campus visit? Would you want to be a faculty member, get to know more information? And the response I usually got was no response. It was the same feeling of when you send a text over Apple messaging and it just says red on the bottom, and you're like, how do I continue this conversation from here? But like I said, motivation shift. I will never forget my motivation to actually leave my position as an admissions counselor. So I was on a visit over in an engineering school out in Ohio. Great experience, loved talking with the students. But as I was coming back from it, I was also reading a book that my grandfather had written. My grandfather was a prime minister at one point. I won't get too much into details unless you're my licensed therapist. But I was reading this book from my grandfather, getting about his life story. I think right in the chapter, he was about my age, maybe in those 20s and whatnot. He used to play piano. And for those who don't know me, I also do play a little on the side as well. But I'm reading the book, having a good time, and then I just fell asleep reading it because I'm old and 80 on the inside, but it happens. So I wake up in the morning and I'm just sobbing. I don't know why. And I'm very confused. And I'm just like crying. And I'm trying to calm myself down, trying to take some deep breaths, trying to pretend like I'm an NPR host talking about meditation and mindfulness. And as I'm trying to figure out what's going on, I end up bumping into the book that I was reading. And it hit me for a single moment. My grandfather being a prime minister, a lot of people could think that of that position comes a lot of ego, a lot of fame, a lot of power as well. But my grandfather always said that he did his work for others. And I sat there just realizing that somebody so iconic to an entire country for 15 years could simply do something because he wanted to serve others. And it's that aspect of service that really motivates me. So, let's try this one more time. So I was motivated and I was motivated to do more because of and I was motivated to come up here and tell this story and share with you guys today. I don't know if that's 5 minutes, but it's all I've got in me right now. So we'll take it. Thank you.
So that means,
St. Kitts and Nevis.
oh, wow. Okay, St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean. Because, that was the question I was going to ask. I wasn't going to be quiet like Ellen, I was just going to be loud. That was wonderful. And I loved your time fillers as well. I'm going to go motivate. At any rate, I have lost my speech. I know there's still time for you to sign up. We still have blank slips of paper. We still have pens. So if you have a story that you want to tell about motivation, we still got time. It's not 9:54 yet, and I got plenty of time on the meter out front. There's only one slip in here. That's not good. Is because I know that you are thinking of a story that you can tell. I am motivated to harass you till somebody else signs up to tell a story. But right now, we're going to listen to Greg Bell. Come on down.
When I was growing up, I lived next door to my best friend, Dave. But we grew up worlds apart. Over in Dave's house, we were running through the house and we'd stub our toe. Somebody'd come running into the room and, "Oh, buddy, you okay? That's gotta hurt." Over in my house, we were running through the house, stubbed our toes. Somebody yelled from the next room, "What did I tell you about running in the house?" When Dave and I first discovered women, we couldn't wait to start dating. Before Dave went out on his first date, his dad stood before him and said, "Be a gentleman. Always treat her like a lady." Over at my house, before my first date, my dad said, "Helen, Dum Dum's got a date with JoJo the dog-faced girl." By the time we turned 17, life tore Dave and I apart and sent us off in different directions. Dave, he graduated high school early. His mom practically tackled people in the street to say, "My son is going to one of the best engineering schools in the country." Over at my house, my mom kicked me out of the house for smoking a cigarette. I was terrified. I was standing in front of my mom and I said, "But Mama, please, I haven't got any place else to go." My mom told me 3 little words that would become my foundation, my anchor. Whenever I was scared, lonely, or frightened, or in pain, my mama's words, "I don't care." A few years ago, more than that for those of you who are more technologically proficient than me, this thing came along called social media. You could look up anybody, and the first person I looked up was my buddy Dave. Life had not been so good to Dave. His high school sweetheart left him. After he graduated college, the company that hired him sold some of his original ideas and then fired him. I think along the way, he probably had a few screws come loose because he moved back into his parents' basement. And he ended up getting a job and a career as a school bus driver. Not that there's anything wrong with that. At 17, barely 17, I found a Marine Corps recruiter who showed me how to forge my birth certificate so I could join the Marines. I saw the world on the Marine Corps dime. I got my GI Bill. I even got to spend a couple years out in California living the bohemian lifestyle of a struggling actor. When I was growing up, I used to dream about it. I used to pray. I used to wish with all my heart to live in a house like Dave's, with the things Dave had, the places Dave could go, and with Dave's parents. As an adult, I'm glad I didn't. Oh, and a side note, it's amazing how good they can make a dog-faced girl look out in California.
A dog-faced girl, that was terrible. I've heard a lot of insults in my life, but that one was new. Thank you so much, that was hilarious. Anybody else got a story they want to tell? I know some of these people here that jog their memory say, "Oh, you want to tell another story." That was just hilarious. Anyway, I have heard some great stories. Is there anybody? I'm just gonna meander around until you think of one. So don't think of. I don't know what happened to my notes now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Right now, you have received that lovely colored survey, and you may fill it out because we're going to have a drawing before we leave here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the visual. I am motivated to figure out what happened to the notes that I had right here on my phone. I bought a whole new phone because forever, my phone would not either open up my email once I was somewhere, or I'd have to use Ellen's phone. So I was motivated to buy a new phone. I believe in letting things wear out. Like I believe in letting the car that I'm driving that's 17 years old, I believe in letting it run until the wheels run off of it. You know what I'm saying? Right now, the glove compartment is sitting in my back seat because there's no heat on one side of my car. And I have not been motivated to take it to the shop because it's been fairly warm. And besides, I had nowhere to go. The car was just in the garage. But as the temperatures drop, I will be motivated to figure out why heat comes out on the driver's side and not on the passenger side. So if you want to ride from me, you will be motivated to dress in layers, okay? Now, I want you to know one more time that our next storytelling event will be held. What's the date again? I mean, I just cannot believe that it just disappeared. You think I just edited it out? February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. So if you were smart, you know what I'm saying, you could bring your date to the story slam. It's just going to be about conversation, not about love and romance. So it'll be all right. And it will be at the Half Liter at 53rd and Winthrop. Okay. I've never been there, but I'm going to figure it out on the way home. Now, I would like to tell you that I'm motivated to do a lot of things. Like people do New Year's resolutions. I don't do that. Because I know that if I say my motivation is to lose weight, that the first time somebody waves some chocolate near me or under my nose, I am going to eat that chocolate. I couldn't wait till today to come out and drink a glass of wine. Sure, I have lots of wine and tequila and cognac at home, but I'm not going to drink at home because I'm going to be happy to tell my doctor when I see her next month that I don't drink at home. I'm just a social drinker. At any rate, I am motivated to begin trying to find some stories for Black History Month, which is all year long for me. And I'm looking for some good stories to tell. So I'm working on that. But really, when my brother calls me in the middle of the day, he asks me what I'm doing, I say, you know what I'm doing. My friends know what I'm doing. I'm just sort of like laying down, watching The Price is Right, playing on my iPad, not doing anything constructive, renewing my overdue library books, so I don't have to get up and take them to the library. But I am going to be motivated to look at my house and see if I really do need to clean it up. Greg.
I'm here to motivate you.
You know, I had some shelves installed in my living room on either side of the fireplace, and my goal was to put books and elephants on those shelves. Right there is one porcelain elephant teapot on that shelf. Nothing else. Nothing else. I mean, in the living room, aligned before the TV, are my presents for my birthday, which was in July. Okay? I am still opening up Christmas presents and birthday presents. Now, I know there's something wrong with that. But I'm gonna be motivated to clean up my house before I call Greg to come over and help me. Because you know that's what people do, right? They do not let you come to your house and see it looking that bad. But at any rate, I am so glad that everybody came out tonight. You may not know this, but the first prize is it $50? Second prize is $25. And third prize is $10. Should I have told you this earlier so you would have been motivated? I'm sorry. But I hope you do complete the surveys, because we're going to have a drawing for some tickets.
Celeste, remind people how they can donate On their smartphone?
Well, yes, you can just go to 44231.
Yes. You just get out your smartphone and you text SAI to 44321, and you can make a secure online donation.
And we
Indy
promise
Source
to divide
is
it
free,
between both
but we will
organizations.
gratefully accept donations.
Yes, Greg.
Can I say one thing?
Sure, come on up.
I
We are
didn't know
glad
that-
to have you.
I didn't know the theme was motivation, so as I sat down, I kept thinking, oh. So I want to say one thing as you talked about your own house. As a composer conductor, I learned throughout the years, and many of you may be teachers, I don't know, but you find out who, he told me to come up here and get on the mic, I'm sorry. You find out who you've motivated. And you don't know that you motivated them. I've had kids come up to me that are teaching and they go, you know, I was in your choir, your honor choir when I was in junior high, and now I teach French horn. I was motivated to go into music. Those are the types of things. And I discovered with organizing is that it's not about the stuff. It's motivating people to maybe try to live differently, maybe discover what's really important to them. And I just want you to know that you need to think about how you motivate people in your own life and know that whether you know or not, you do. And maybe take a few minutes and think, what is it that I'm doing every day that motivates? And if maybe you don't think of anything, maybe it's time to try to start motivating. So thank you. This was a wonderful night, as always.
And Maestro organization, organizing is one of our new sponsors for our Story Slam, and we thank you for that. And I'm gonna think about being motivated. Great. But hey, I got the results. Third place winner is Greg Bell. And we want to take your picture. Well, I got the money. You want to come up here?
Oh, but I won't do for my.
Motivation. We're going to have all three of our winners take their pictures. Samantha Powers. Hey. Our second place winner. And our first place winner is, drum roll please, da-da-da-da-da, Sheila Spencer. Congratulations. Sheila's going to take your pictures. I'm going to get out of your way.